The Cork 20 rally marked the season finale of the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship, and the weather forecast for the weekend promised to provide a challenge for our championship hopefuls as they fought it out on these final stage miles of the season. Callum Devine came here knowing that a win was essential if he had any chance of keeping his championship hopes alive.
We know what the task is this weekend. We have to stay ahead of Keith, try and get top Tarmac points, which is not going to be easy. Matt's out here too. He's looking for a win in the championship, probably to prove a bit of speed as well. So yeah, it's going to be a tough ask like it has been all year. So, but we're looking forward to it. New challenge today. New challenge in these conditions.
Keith Cronin needed to finish second or above to claim the title here in Cork. He goes well in wet conditions, but he also knows that it's easy to get caught out.
Generally we go okay in the wet, but it does make it a more risk-reward kind of condition. So we'll just see how we get on. As I said, same for everyone. Loads of stuff now, like you get caught out on, but try and get through the first loop in one piece and see where we are.
Matt Edwards was out of the running for the championship, but he wouldn't be backing off, and his result could play an important part in the battle for the title.
We aren't really in a position to fight for anything. Obviously second in the championship would be great, but you know, at the end of the day we're here for Pirelli, and you know, they've helped us do the championship in many ways, so you know, we're here to get the best result we can for that side, and obviously to end the year on a high.
8 stages lay in wait for the crews. Let's head out to the first loop of those stages to see how the title race unfolded. Fastest out of the blocks over the morning loop would be Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan. They were taking a few more risks than perhaps they should, but they knew that finishing second wasn't an option, and they held an early 1.5 second lead after stage 3.
Very tricky. The first stage was probably the worst of a lot of them, and then really caught us a wee bit off guard the whole time, so we kind of driving them last 2 stages sort of blind, picking where the water might be, and yeah, look, as you say, just having to get back to service and try and it's hard, like just trying to keep your nose clean, like Killian.
Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin only needed second place to take the title. Anything less, and he could hand the win to Devine, so they wouldn't be pushing for the event win, opting to play it safe and get to the finish. Despite not feeling fast, the pair would end the morning loop in that second place they needed.
It's really difficult. Even though everything is working, the heating screen and everything, it still was getting fogged up, and there's just so much condensation in the car from all the water. But yeah, it's really tricky. Like, I feel like we're driving very carefully, but if you tried to up it, you'd probably go off.
So far, Matt Edwards and David Moynihan weren't affecting the championship battle, lying in third place for now. But with a good feeling in the car, considering the conditions, they had the potential to turn that leaderboard on its head on the next loop of stages.
It's comfortable and everything's working all right, just cautious in some bits. You just don't know whether you're going to get a running water in some place and that you can't see or you're not expecting, but yeah, okay.
David Kelly and Dean O'Sullivan would have problems with the screen misting up, but they wouldn't be the only ones. They weren't taking any big risks this time out, but would see if they could push a little more in the afternoon.
I have been up. Look, I know I was too cautious there, Kelly. You know, when you're like 70% of the way through the corner, you knew you were too slow, you know. But look, we'll just pick it up for the next loop. But it's treacherous enough, like, you know, it's like fine line, exactly, just trying to get it right, you know.
James Ford and Neil Shanks were doing their own thing, so much so that they thought they were well off the lead. It turned out that they were on the pace enough to lie in 5th overall, having a good run so far, other than being stuck behind another car. And the car they got stuck behind was the Toyota of Marion Evans and Jar Conway. The car limping through the stage with a fully misted up windscreen and losing a lot of time. They'd reached the end of the stage unsure if they even wanted to continue. Josh McAlane and James Fulton came to Cork to compete against the Irish Tarmac Championship regulars. But it wasn't going to plan. A big spin on stage 1 that they were lucky to get away with was followed by a puncture on the following stage. Despite this, the pair would end stage 3 in 6th overall. Things were all going to plan for Jason McSweeney and Liam Brennan. They were happy enough with their times and would end this loop of stages in 7th place overall. Declan Boyne and Patrick Walsh were finding the conditions to be some of the worst they'd ever seen. Their setup on the car was a little hard for these stages, but they were getting through and were in 8th overall. Owen Murphy and Anthony Nestor would have a brief moment off the road and thought it had cost them a puncture. Thankfully, that wasn't the case, and they could end the morning with 9th place overall, although they developed a bit of a misfire through the second stage of the day. Rounding out the top 10 at this stage would be Kevin Eves and Chris Melly. They were another crew to be struggling with a misted-up screen due to the amount of water making it into the cars. Frank and Lauren Kelly were here with the modified championship in mind, and as such, Frank's usual exuberant driving style would be kept in check a little, although the stages had other plans. They were doing exactly what they needed to do at this stage and led the way in the modified crews.
Not taking crazy risks in that one.
You were nearly 6 seconds quicker than Daniel McKenna there.
Must screenshot that shit, I'll never see it again.
I know.
Second of the modifieds were Conor Murphy and Sean Collins. They described the conditions as mental, and they weren't wrong. There was water everywhere and causing some issues in places, but for now that second place was very welcome. Next in the modified battle were Damien Toner and Adon Gallagher. They would get a misfire in the third stage of the morning that would need some investigation as they headed back to service after the morning's loop, but for now it would be third in the modifieds. The early leaders in the RC4 class were Keelan Grogan and Aaron Sherlock, but that would come to an end on stage 2 when they put the car off the road and they dropped right down the order. So that left it up to Kyle McBride and Darren Mullen to lead the class, 11.2 seconds of an advantage by the end of stage 3. In second place in the class would be Aaron Brown and Derry Long, the Fiesta pair gaining some pace on the second and third stages, possibly feeling that the conditions were slightly better on those. For Johan Lloyd and Sean Williams it would be third in that class, but it was close. The Welsh pair were only 9 seconds back from Brown and Long at this point. So, with the first loop of stages completed, the results at the top looked like this. On to the second loop of the day, and with the conditions getting even worse on the stages, the organisers made the tough decision to cancel the event on safety grounds, which meant that the results would be made final after stage 5. Before we take a look at how that decision affected the championship fight, let's check how the various classes had got on here on the now shortened Cork 20. Class 1 this weekend was won by Shane Collins and Denny O'Riordan. They would be the only ones left by the end of the event, but up until then it had been a close fight. In Class 2A it was Niall Furlong and Oisin Joyce in the Fiesta who took the top spot. They won by 16.4 seconds at the end of stage 5. Class 4 would have just the one finisher, so victory there went to John and Andy Hayes, who finished in 56th place overall. In Class 9 there would be just 2 classified finishers, but with second place there under Super Rally it was Timmy Foley and Ronald Riordan who took the win by almost 17 minutes at the finish. Just the one finisher in Class 10, so Frank Hurley and Adrian Phelan took the class win in 98th place overall. Class 11F would have a few more crews, and a good battle too, with the win eventually going to James Bradley and David Byrne in their Civic, with a margin of 31 seconds at the finish. In the 11R class it was a similar story, with Kenneth Quirk and Breed Murphy taking the class win by 20 seconds. Class 12 saw the escort of Tommy Mason and Paul McGlinchey coming out on top. A good run for the pair saw them taking 34th place overall as well. For Paul Purtill and Paul Kelly, it would be the top step in the Class 13 results, finishing in a fantastic 19th place overall as well. In Class 15 it would be victory for Aidan Jackson and Jared Gill in the Mitsubishi. They took the win in the class by 39 seconds. Class 17 would have just the one finisher, and it would be John Mead and Owen Mulcahy in their Peugeot 205 who took the win there. It was a similar story in Class 20, with Morgan Dempsey and Garrett Burke in the Evo being the only ones reaching the finish in that class this weekend. The weekend also saw the junior crews in action, and there was some great driving from the crews in these conditions, with third place at the end of the event going to Catherine Walsh and Angie Mishnievich, but the pair had found the conditions to be the hardest they've done so far. Aquaplaning was the issue for Barry McIntyre and Brian Keohan, and they weren't going to be the only ones affected, but they kept clear heads and got to the finish with second place in the juniors. taking the win were Darragh Walsh and Gary Lombard. They felt like they were passengers at times, but they got through the event in one piece and managed to open up a lead of 39 seconds by the finish. In the historic category, it would be a third place finish for Walter Dick and Maeve Griffin. The escort pair also took the Class 19 win in that position too. Second place in the category went to Phil Rogers and Sean Jones, but they were only 14 seconds clear by the end of the event, so it was a close fight for second this weekend. Taking the win were Neil Williams and Anthony O'Sullivan. A good run from the pair saw them with a comfortable lead by the time the results were declared final. There wouldn't be any change in the RC4 class by the end of the shortened event. Johan Lloyd and Sean Williams were just managing the conditions and getting through, and they kept hold of their third place. The same could be said for Aaron Brown and Derry Long as well. They maintained their second place to the finish, just 5.8 seconds ahead of Lloyd. But taking the win would be Kyle McBride and Dara Mullen, so a good event for the pair as they finished with a 19-second advantage at the end. In the modified results, it was a third place finish for Conor Murphy and Sean Collins. They'd struggled at times, but they kept it going, and some good overall times saw them taking 12th place overall as well. Just ahead on the overall results were Daniel McKenna and Andrew Grennan. They were driving safely, braking early and taking few chances, but that seemed to be the key as the pair took second in the modifieds and 11th overall. But the winners of the modifieds on the event, and indeed for the championship season, were Frank and Lauren Kelly. They weren't worried what was happening around them, just doing what they needed to do and getting through the stages to take a well-deserved win. And the pair would likely be glad to get back on an event where sideways was their own choice and not that of the weather.
Frank, horrendous conditions, but it's been a dream event for you. You've led from the go, you've got the two-wheel drive modified victory, and you've also took the championship.
It seems like a dream sequence I'm going through now. I hope nobody wakes me up. I can't get over that. We had a game plan. I don't normally come in with a game plan to any rally, but we knew that the weather was coming in. We did a lot of work on the notes. Lauren has brought things on massively for me with she knows how little attention span I have, and she can put stuff in that means a lot. You know, that one word that means 5 different phrases to get the thing together. So it just worked. Chiara was fantastic. Tyres worked fierce well. Club put on an amazing event. I can't recommend this club enough and bum them up enough. We're blessed with the amount of good clubs we have in this country, but these guys lead the way, and for this to happen to them and the rally have to be pulled, it was the right choice, but I'd been happy enough to be it on.
Perfect. Lauren, it must be extra special, obviously, to take the win here, but to take the championship alongside your dad.
Yeah, I already had the Navigators Championship wrapped up, but it wouldn't be the same if we weren't both there at the prize given in first place. So delighted it's my first overall championship win. Never thought, we just signed up earlier in the year because we thought, well, we'll be doing West Cork, we'll do Donegal and we'll see what way it shakes out. Now, after our accident in West Cork and missing the circuit, it's hard to believe we're standing here now, the overall winners of the championship. Just goes to show it's never over till it's over.
So you'll be back to defend the title, I take it?
No, it is her first and my last.
Owen Murphy and Anthony Nesto wouldn't be the only ones to say it, but the stages in this loop were getting worse. The conditions were tricky already, but now they were even more difficult. They ended the event in 9th overall and were glad the event was cut short. For Kevin Eves and Chris Melly, it was 8th overall. The pair not more than a few seconds from many of the crews around them on the results. One of those crews being Michael Boyle and Dermot McCafferty. They cut a corner too tightly on one of the stages and thought they'd end up with a puncture, but all seemed okay as the pair ended the event in 7th overall. Declan Boyle and Patrick Walsh were another pairing, glad to see the finish of the event. The conditions, some of the worst they'd seen. Despite that, however, they did go well and finished with 6th place overall this weekend. Jason McSweeney and Liam Brennan kept out of trouble and had a good run in the Skoda to end the event in 5th place. A good finish for the pair in those very tricky conditions. Josh McAlane and James Fulton would cause a little cosmetic damage to the car when they ran wide on the last chicane on stage 4, but apart from that the afternoon went to plan for the pair, taking 4th place. But without the morning's issues, it could have been a podium finish. The feeling in the car was good for Matt Edwards and David Moynihan, but there was no denying that the stages were getting worse. They didn't get in the way of the championship battle and took third place this weekend in the Fiesta.
It's getting too dangerous, isn't it? Yeah.
So, what about that championship battle? Well, all Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin had to do was finish in second place or above, and that's exactly what they did. They just got on with a pace they felt safe at, and it paid off. Second place this weekend, but the number one spot in the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship for 2024. Despite their best efforts and doing everything that they could, it wouldn't be the win in the championship for Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan this year. But they did take the event win this weekend, which was a great result in those conditions and showed that they still have the pace when it matters.
Callum, another victory. This one's a bit different.
Yeah, look, yeah, good victory for us. The weather today was absolutely atrocious. First of all, fair play to all the marshals and the motor club for putting up with that weather and getting it to this point, but it was the right call probably to stop it. But yeah, look, we done all we could do for ourselves. We knew we had to come here and try and get top points, and yeah, we done that today. Proved a bit of speed, and yeah, Keith was second and ended up, which he drove well too. Anything could have happened, so that's the way it goes sometimes. So.
Before we hear from our 2024 champions at the end of a tough event, here's a reminder of those final overall results.
Keith and Mikey, 2024 Irish Tarmac champions. Sounds great.
Yeah, no, it's a good ring to it. Yeah, it's been a great year. Great championship this year. There's been some big battles, and to come out with the win is fantastic. I think it could be any one of the three of us, really, myself, Callum and Matt, but to get the win in such a close competition was great.
It even showed it today, like conditions were so tricky and you were still finishing stages on the same second.
Yeah, no, it's been that tight all year. A lot of it probably came down to mistakes and who got away with the mistakes. That's literally probably what it came down to. And luckily we probably got away maybe a few more than the guys. And yeah, no, it was great. But like, yeah, when we started this year, we hadn't done the championship in 8 years, so it was didn't really expect to win it. But yeah, no, it was great, and like loads of people to thank. Mikey, first of all, especially days like today, very, very important to be listening to him. Again, gravel crews, days like today, so important. All the sponsors, Tom Gahan and his team. Yeah, it's a huge team effort, and it's good to get the win for everyone.
Perfect. Yeah, as Keith was saying, so difficult today. I mean, calling notes, like it's very hard to get the timing right because obviously the pace is down, but then you need to be a bit earlier because the braking is non-existent. So tough, and obviously the rally was cut short with 2 stages, so not the way you wanted to probably win the championship. But listen, you'll make up for it in Killarney in a few weeks' time.
We might make up for it in Killarney tonight. No, so happy. Yeah, it was tough. Yeah, the speed was down, but there was so much more stuff added into the note that kind of made up for that busyness, because there was water and it was raining cats and dogs. There was literally a dog running in floods, and it was bananas today. So in one way I'm kind of happy that it's over here. I didn't really want to head out and face it again because it was getting to a point where it was not fun, but what a super year, ups and downs, and to get to battle with the guys all year, 3 of us winning all the rallies all year, was so much fun. Yeah.
Keith, it's a long, tough year, and I'm sure there's lots of people you have to thank.
Yeah, I would like to give a big shout out to the marshals all year, but especially this weekend in the Cork 20. Some of the worst conditions I've seen since I've been rallying, and I'm rallying a good while now. So to stand out there in them conditions and let us do what we do, we couldn't do without them, so big thanks to them.